Thank you for joining the front of the table because we're hoping for an engaging conversation today on entrepreneurship education, some trends, challenges, and opportunities that we see. And we have a pretty diverse panel. We come from all over the world, so you'll hopefully hear some unique perspectives. And if we have time at the end, would love to hear from you guys, those of you who work in the entrepreneurship education space. So my name is Thomas Pitts. I am a professor of entrepreneurship at the University of Tampa in the States, in Florida, a state that's growing incredibly since COVID. We've now surpassed New York as the third most populous state in the United States with over 22 million people. So a lot of entrepreneurship, a lot of movement down towards Florida and Tampa in particular. I am also the president and board chair of USASB, the United States Association of Small Business and Entrepreneurship, an organization that's focused on advancing entrepreneurship education through practice, theory, and research. So I want to give the rest of the panelists, we have a short hour here, so it's going to go quickly. I want to give them a chance to introduce themselves, and then we'll kick off the conversation starting with trends in entrepreneurship education. So we'll just move to my left to Camilo.
Hi, everybody. My name is Camilo Peña. I'm from Chile, South America. My English is a little bit different, like other people. I try to explain where I come from. Probably is working, or this is working. Okay. Yeah. This is me. Studied abroad in many countries. I have the opportunity. I am a professor of innovation management in Universidad de Playa Ancha, that is a university close to the Pacific Ocean, in the Valparaiso city, that is a World Heritage city. Yeah. About the higher education system, we are in a industry consolidation of all the institutions. We have more than 50 universities in all the country, about 1.2 million of students in the system, and we are in accreditation of the quality system for all the institutions. Chile is in the south of South America. For many rankings, there is in the first or the second place more innovation country in South America. From some rankings, this year is second in Latam. It's the number 36 global ranking. The city and the country and the city, the capital city, that is Santiago de Chile. One of the major events that we have in the last 10 years is the Startup Chile program. That is an international program for all startups around the world. We have 4 or 5 unicorns from the country. And 2 years ago, started the ScaleX, that is the stock exchange market only for startups. That is an interesting event or interesting institution that could be interesting for other countries, especially in South America or in other continents. About the trend, challenge, and opportunity that we try to talk about in this session. One of the problems in my country, in my area and my university, is that the entrepreneurial activities don't be recognized in the academic curriculum. It's difficult to coordinate and schedule entrepreneurship challenge in a university semester and evaluate it. Select the suitable platform because we have several inside of the country and abroad. And other programs that we have participated but in other practices or in other subjects, not in entrepreneurship, is the COIL program. That is a collaborative online international learning. And finally, the eruption of climate change and sustainable issues, a lot of challenge from Chile and abroad that we have to participate. And that's it. Cheers and ta.
Very good morning. My name is Sabur Khan. I'm from Bangladesh. So I'm representing as a educational sector also because I love to say that we are one of the university. We took the risk to start the entrepreneur education in 2013. Department of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. First time we took the opportunity because I am getting a lot of knowledge from Global Entrepreneurship Network and which insist me to start the first Bachelor of Entrepreneurship in Bangladesh and especially in Asian region. So I should say that as our brother is already, Camilo is mentioned that Chile is also developing the entrepreneurial education. I think every country, every destination need to cultivate now the entrepreneurial education. Why? Because first of all, every person, every people has uniqueness. I think that everyone, that the God is all created every people with some uniqueness. So that uniqueness also need to identify the entrepreneurial mindset. The entrepreneurial mindset we need to understand and need to follow up. These follow-up entrepreneurship mindset need to follow up by the brother, sister, parents, teacher, friends, everyone. Because whenever we are mixing with the people, I am sure that everyone is not entrepreneurial minded. Entrepreneurial minded people need to take the risks, creative thinking, innovation need to be cultivated, and always need to start. Because you see, when we started our university education last 10 years, we are finding the student are not eager to start their business. They are coming to join as our entrepreneurship department, but when I'm talking with them, everyone is telling, we like to complete our graduation, then we'll start our business. I said, no. As an entrepreneurial minded student, you need to start your business right now, and you need to prove yourself that where you are becoming failure and what sorts of obstacle you are facing. So at the same time, that entrepreneurial minded student, whenever they will start, I think then they will realize that what sorts of education they need to learn, like supply chain, like branding, like accounting, like, animation, a lot of the things they need to know each and every day. But majority cases, you see that the student think that I need the fund. But as you know, that due to cause of the technological development, it is not necessary to start with the funding. Fund does not matter. The matter is that how we should educate them properly, how we should insist them to start the business. So in our university, what we started? We started to all of the students, giving them some opportunity. You see that one university, we have almost 22,000 students. And we also have the accommodation, around 10,000 student accommodation inside the campus. So it's a one source of circular economy we develop inside the campus based on the entrepreneurial minded student. So we allow them to start any sorts of business inside the campus, and even then we allow them to supply any sorts of product to the university, like the t-shirt, like the souvenir, whatever you have the opportunity, you can come to the university, approach to the university and give the supply. We'll find out that what sorts of commitment and quality you are maintaining through your entrepreneurial journey and the educational system. Because we believe it that if we are not bringing the entrepreneurial minded student in the front line, because as I love to say that entrepreneurship is a education that which you cannot teach through the online. Because you see the one of the trainings, a driving course, you cannot teach through online. If you teach through online driving course, it's a game, it's not the driving. So same thing, I think entrepreneurial education also need to consider practically, physically, and need to start their business. I think I'm happy that last few years we are trying to convince our students so they start their business, and majority of them they are compete to each other, because a lot of cases the entrepreneur is also need to develop the networking. You see that networking, when we talk, say suppose if we talk with one of the friend in this Gen or GEC 2023, I think we don't know that this person may be the right person to help my business growth. So networking also need to develop. A lot of cases, the entrepreneurial minded student, while they study, they forget it to develop their entrepreneurial minded or networking system. Because that's why I should say that we also develop a lot of this ecosystem inside the campus. Like we also develop one innovation center. The student, those who are the entrepreneurial minded, they need to find out the one commercial 3D printer, they need to CNC cutting or a lot of this designing material they need it. Sometimes they tell that we don't have the enough fund to buy it. So that is why we developed an innovation center inside the campus, bringing all of the component in the innovation center. So students, while they study, when they are getting the opportunity, they are going to the innovation center and try to explore their innovative idea and creating the product. While they creating the product, we also have a campus store, so they can sell the product inside the campus. Even that, one of the entrepreneur-minded students came to me, I think, few months back. He also wished to start one flower shop inside the campus because the convocation, birthday, any sorts of anniversary student nowadays they love to just give to the flower. So I just allow him inside the campus to flower shop. So now I think he started his flower shop to sell it in the online to other premises, other area of the locality. So I'm sure that I already insist him that if you can flourish your online activities through this way, maybe once upon a time you can become a millionaire or billionaire. Maybe you can list your company in the stock market or the capital market. So that is why I think the education system need to be rethink and regenerate based on the global entrepreneurship network, global entrepreneurship congress. I hope that you already understand a lot of this stakeholder is coming. They are giving their idea, and a lot of the policy is also done by the global entrepreneurship network. So I think technology need to be also cultivated, and technology need to also develop and bringing the educational ecosystem, because that this is a day of innovation. This is a day of artificial intelligence. So to develop a business plan, earlier you need to study a lot, but nowadays you don't need to get a lot of time. So I think if you have the idea, even if you do not know the good English, I think it does not matter. You can go to the Google Translate, record your voice and tell it translate to the English. First you need your native language and then you translate to the English, and then tell to the artificial intelligence, develop my business idea based on this component what I already put in the record. So that means within few seconds I can develop my business idea. I can develop the checklist, I can develop the human resource, I can develop the branding, product, innovation, a lot of the things I can develop with the AI. So that means earlier it takes maybe few years to develop all of the policy and website. So whatever contents you already develop, I think based on this, if you tell also to the artificial intelligence to develop my website based on my business idea and product which I am giving, I think within few seconds we'll get the website design also. So that technological education also need to be involved in the course curriculum. So lastly, I should tell the 2 point, pitching. I think school level also we need to start pitching, because this is one of my idea, and I hope that going back to Bangladesh, I'll try to start this pitching idea, because this one I got it in this GEC 2023. If the school student is starting the pitching, so we'll find out their entrepreneurial mindset student, those who can nurture and we can give them the emphasis and helping them and guide them, mentoring them to become the entrepreneur. Because entrepreneur can create to any of the places. It doesn't matter he or she is a graduate or he or she is studying in the Harvard or Stanford, doesn't matter. The entrepreneur can start in any places. I hope that you know the whole background. So second idea, I think lastly I should say that we also developed one entrepreneurship development fund in our university. We have 1.5 million US dollar. We already developed a fund for our entrepreneurship development fund, which is no interest, no hidden price, nothing. Students, those who are interested to start their business, they are facing the fund problem. Seed funded we are giving from the entrepreneurship development fund. So these funds is really playing a very key role now to encourage to the student to come and submit their business idea, pitching their business idea, getting the fund and starting their business. So I'm sure that because maybe in the long run, you see, a lot of the education system will go to the transfer to the online. But I'm sure again, entrepreneurship education cannot be transformed to the online. It should be the practical, because you need to start your business right now, need to prove your efficiency, need to prove your marketing style, communication style, your risk-taking capability, and how you like to bring the marketing and the revenue that need to prove, so which you cannot do or promote through the online. So that's all. I hope that these sorts of trends based on this present scenario. And I'm really happy that those you are joining here, the Global Entrepreneurship Network is a very good platform. And I'm sure that, that's last 17 years, they are working very hard to develop this ecosystem in the whole world. The more than 220 countries now joining this Global Entrepreneurship Networking. So I hope that this will be the one of the UN body in near future that for the entrepreneurship development. So thank you, those who are joining here. Wish all of you good luck.
Thank you, Sabur. Wonderful to be here. My name is Baden Uren. I've got an interest in education, and given that the world is becoming more uncertain and entrepreneurs are the masters of uncertainty, I have an interest in entrepreneurship education. Quick show of hands. Who else is interested in entrepreneurship education? This is pretty magic, that there are so many of us here in this room together, and I thank you for taking your time to be here. I've got a background in industry before being an academic, and you'll notice for each of us, we each have an entrepreneurial story, an entrepreneurial experience before we became an academic. And I think that's an interesting comment to think about with respect to education and entrepreneurship education. The fact that by chance, GEC decided to put 4 people up here to represent entrepreneurship education to you, and each of us has a blend between practice and theory, and the power of bringing theory and practice together to inform effective education programs. I'm obviously representing Australia. A quick snapshot on Australia. We're a consolidating entrepreneurship education ecosystem. We've gone through rapid growth over the last sort of 10 years, starting with the National Innovation and Science Agenda, which was launched by our federal government in 2015, put $1 billion in behind innovation activities, and then different states followed suit. And we've seen a rapid growth and an expansion on entrepreneurship programs, both in educational environments, but also within community environments, accelerators, programs. But further to Sabur's point, it's only just starting to head into the K-12 space. And so I spend part of my time in the higher education sector. I also spend part of my time in the K-12 sector. And then I spend part of my time in the commercial sort of consultancy space with C-suite education. All different levels, all delving into entrepreneurship education. Interestingly, Australia rates #1 in terms of intrapreneurship in the world, the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor in 2019. A nuance of the Australian market, we're a big, small country dominated by large corporate organisations that is changing. So in the past, we've been a very intrapreneurship-dominated society, and that is changing quite heavily into the nascent entrepreneurial startup space. So that's a bit of an insight into Australia. I think we're going to have a wonderful discussion, I think, today on some targeted little challenge points and opportunities that exist in this world. And I'd like to complement Sabur's point about that entrepreneurship education cannot be delivered online. And I would like to put forward that perhaps online delivery has a part of the puzzle to play in entrepreneurship education. And I'd also agree that it's insufficient. It needs to be complemented with other aspects. Thomas, back to you to drive how we go forward for the next 40 minutes.
Can't figure out the microphone, but once we do that, thank you all for introducing yourselves. This is great. I love the various backgrounds. Building on some of this, so there's a lot of trends we could focus on in entrepreneurship education, but I think what you're hearing from this panel so far is that we believe strongly that it is a discipline of practice. It's very different than a lot of the other aspects of business education, certainly, that we're focused on practicing the skills of entrepreneurship and some questions about whether or not that can happen in an online format. I think that's a valid question. So I'd like to turn it back to the panel to talk about practice, how we practice entrepreneurship, where, if there is a space for online education, does it exist? And then we'll get into a conversation about mindset. You've heard that a few times. We teach entrepreneurial mindset in the European discipline. They talk about it more in terms of competencies, entrepreneurship competencies, but what that looks like too. So first, let's come back, and I want to just open it up to the panel to talk about the practice of entrepreneurship and how online education fits in that.
maybe I'll take the go on the online space because I currently work for an online educator in the animation, visual effects, and game design space. So it's called CG Spectrum. They have historically done skill-based training into the games and film industries, and now we're entered into the higher education space. And I've been brought in to design entrepreneurship and management leadership programs for those particular industries. Now, that provider is a purely online educator, and there are some advantages to online education business models in terms of the delivery of education. The obvious one is the lack of physical resources to capitalise and therefore the associated cost with that, which opens up your business model to different teaching business models. And I would say to you that the online space has a distinct advantage in innovation in how you design your teaching interventions. All of a sudden, if you're dealing with multiple people around the world in different time zones, your business model opens up to a higher percentage that you align to the teaching delivery. So you can run multiple versions of the same class for different time zones of different people in different areas, right? You can have co-teaching delivery. You can have multiple educators into the space delivering, whereas the traditional business model only has the one academic in place. So this online delivery, if you have a provider that doesn't have the legacy of infrastructure, opens up opportunities to innovating in the delivery of education. And I also spend a bit of my time in the K-12 sector. I have a role of entrepreneur in residence at a local school up on the Gold Coast, and I'm designing curriculum in there. And I've benefited so much in going from the tertiary space into the primary, secondary space in the discipline that exists in secondary education, in the delivery of education, like lesson plans, like targeted, structured lesson plans that us as academics, we're not teachers, we're not like trained teachers. We become academics and we've got this PhD letter that sits behind and we're assumed to be like educators. And often we're not. Some of us are pure researchers, others are pure academics or whatever, right? And we haven't exposed ourselves to the magic of the discipline of education. And I've learned so much from my colleagues in the secondary space around structuring the student experience through your online delivery space. Like you might have an hour long with a session, but you've got seven different interventions that are happening that are driving student engagement through that place in a structured, planned approach. So there are these opportunities that exist in the online space where you can drive experiential type activities. And further to my point earlier, where I said that it's one component, the online delivery is one component. My view is it then needs to be complemented by students performing and doing, because we know in the entrepreneurship space, higher levels of educational outcomes come through authentic experiential delivery of education. Like problem-based learning, activity-based learning, experiential learning is key to entrepreneurial outcomes. And so as an educator in the online space, you need to be very strategic as to how you are setting your students up to perform experientially while you're delivering virtually. And so that totally changes your structuring. It structures the structure of your assessment. Again, I'm learning from my primary and secondary teachers, like progressive delivery on assessment and check-ins and feedbacks along the way in order to get work happening, oversight through group channels and things that are in place. And we'll get to another concept on AI and ChatGPT and how that comes into it, right? But I think what the online space allows you to do is reimagine education and take advantage of the unique cost base of online education. And this happens when you're not wed to a legacy business model. So I'd say to you that existing tertiary providers that have physical campuses are biased against. It doesn't mean they can't, they're biased against playing in this new world of online education. It's a challenge for them because of their legacy business model. And there's opportunity for companies like CG Spectrum, who I've chosen to be part of, that are free of that. and can play in the higher education space, in the online space, and drive really, really high-level entrepreneurial education outcomes in a completely different way.
I'll add to that, Sabor, and then we'll turn it to you. The AI and we're all going through this transformational period right now, and what it tells me pretty clearly is that we need to elevate our expectations, not only of ourselves and our universities, but of our students. I don't know if you've played with, there's a cottage industry now in these companies that are diving into the back door of ChatGPT and OpenAI and developing these, these tools that students can use. For example, one of the common experiential exercises that we'll do for students is have them build a website, right, to sell their business. Well, I don't know if you've played with some of these like Durable or Google, or Google Slides, or maybe you can. There are website developers now that can create a website in 20 seconds. We need to elevate our expectations of students. Presentations can be created with a click of a button. There are so many tools, and this is only growing. It's only getting more accessible to students. So encouraging them to utilize these tools, I think we're doing them a disservice if we bury our head in the sands and try to pretend AI does not exist. Sabor.
Thank you. I think I just added one point with Biden, that entrepreneurship. I think that as I mentioned, that entrepreneur-minded student or entrepreneur-minded young people, if in any cases he or she failed to become an entrepreneur, due to cause of his all development, I think he can easily position himself or herself in any organization with entrepreneurship. Because inside the organization, I think every entrepreneur is always love to say that I'm not getting the right people who can drive my business in the other component or other stake. So this is the entrepreneur-minded people staff is being in the company, then it is easy to rise, because one company can explode to the 1,000 company based on the entrepreneurship inside the organization. That is why the entrepreneurship education need to cultivate as much as possible, because the whole system is now gradually changing. Because after this, as Biden is also mentioned, that due to cause of the AI, the transformation of education need to quickly change. Because you see it is very possible, I hope that everyone will agree with me, that all of this education system need to bring in a chipset, and you can put your chipset in your arm, and then you can become the whatever you like to do it. I think you can buy the chipset, doctor, engineer, pilot, and put your chipset, and then you become the pilot. So that means you need to practical education. So these sorts of service-oriented education can be possible by the chipset. But entrepreneur-minded education cannot be possible by the chipset, because entrepreneurs always need to take the decision based on the struggle, failure, and other component. So as we are facing the problem, the teacher, because the teacher, those who are now giving the lecture to the student, all of them, they already got the education as usual. They complete the course, getting the mark, and then result. But I hope that, as Biden is also mentioned, that the teacher should also bring to the entrepreneur minded. So that is why we are also facing one problem. I love to share with you, because in our university, when I'm trying to bring the industry people, I think all academicians told that no, he don't have the academic good knowledge, these sorts of barriers, so he or she cannot become a academician. So then I just introduce in our university a professor of practice. Forget the academic background. So everybody was surprised. I said, no, we need to bring for the entrepreneurship education professor of practice. Those who have the background and knowledge, they should come to the university and they will start their academic activities to teach to the student. So now we already successfully started the professor of practice. So again, I should say that earlier, I think with this one point, because as all of we are mixing with thousand people every day, I think in our side, we'll find a lot of the entrepreneur-minded people. Because again, I should say entrepreneur-minded people have the commitment, they have the respect to the other people, they have the ethical practice, they have the parental or familial values, they have the strong target, focus, goal, and they have the positivity minded. Because the positivity mindset is also need to be ensured by entrepreneur-minded people. Because why? If I'm giving one of my example, when I started my business in 1990, suddenly somehow I lost all of the business. So after 1 year, all of the business, I thought that I am finished. I don't have any money now. All money is gone. But suddenly it came to my mind, what I lost? Money. But did I lost my knowledge? No. My branding image? No. My company? No. My networking? No. My trust and other things I developed between these 2 years? No. So what I lost? Then it seems to me, no, I lost only papers, not a money. So suddenly I just went to my supplier. I'm telling them, look, I lost my money. Did you believe me? So you see, if I did not lost money, I may not come to this position, because everybody giving me the credit facility, and everybody giving me the, say earlier maybe they give me the credit facility maybe 500,000 US dollar, but now I got the 2 million US dollar. I got the credit facility, and within 15 days I become the millionaire. Because the reason what? Only the thing is that after losing my money, I realized that what confidence, what reputation, and what brand image I developed last 2 years. So that is why I think these sorts of education need to be spread through the educational course curriculum, so that the student should realize the money does not matter. They should have the ethical practice, they should have the moral values and other component. And that is why I should say that in education system we also introduce the art of living. Because where we are trying to give the lesson that you have to look after about the community. Because at the end of the day, if you are not looking after the community, as I told, because if I'm losing the money, if I'm not developing this confidence to the people, I'm sure that I'm not getting the credit facility from my supplier. So thank you.
Okay. Well, I try to explain my journey as a teacher of innovation management and entrepreneurship. This kind of event is good for find your partner country, your partner institution, and a colleague that you can create international exposure for your students, undergraduate students. For example, one of the problems to create an innovation challenge is to receive an invitation when you are start the semester, and you don't have opportunity to change the program of the course. The other thing is you have to find colleagues that you are closer, that you have a good relationship. They have to work in the same time zone. For example, we in Chile have some countries like New York in the States, United States, the East Coast. Colombia, another country, have the same time zone. The other thing is that we have a teacher in the both institution. They helps with the practical activities of the challenge, or the innovation challenge. Sometimes when you have a student from the different level, for example, the programs where I am teaching have 5 years. It's a program of 5 years. You have to pick a student from the 3rd or the 4th years. They have the same background. And if sometimes they don't have the same knowledge at the end, at the first session or the first session, you can put a mock course or content in the LMS platform or in Moodle, where they can work with the content of the course. They can have deliver the knowledge for the course for all the students. And what are other tips? In my country, we create some groups of. We have an association of innovation researchers. In other countries like Brazil, UK, and in Europe, for example, they have a group of entrepreneurship teachers that is running very well. In Chile, it's not ready. And this opportunity is the opportunity to find colleagues that want to work together, that you want, you can work together. And I think that is my recommendation to launch a innovation challenge in your course, and the last one, you have to find similar subjects. For example, the same faculty, engineer, business, and so on. Because probably you can find a university in your continent or in your zone that they have the experience with this program. Yeah? And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, to switch gears briefly, I think it's safe to say that we believe that interdisciplinary entrepreneurship education is the richest. And too often in our schools, entrepreneurship gets siloed in the business school. And I don't know about you, but I can usually say that the worst ideas for business come from business students. So I'd love to turn it back to the panel and for us to quickly just discuss, or not quickly necessarily, but discuss some strategies for breaking down those silos and becoming more interdisciplinary with our entrepreneurship education.
If you have a question in Spanish or Portuguese, I'll translate.
Thank you, Thomas. I think something to consider is interdisciplinary, yes, but think more broadly about blurring the boundaries of your educational institution. Not only the silo of your faculty or what discipline of teaching you're in with other areas, but also into your community and being diverse in the way in which you deliver your education that isn't siloed to just your particular area. So it can be within the university or within the school or within the skills organisation, but consider also your industry and your community in that space. I look back to pivotal moments in my development as an educator, and I visited D School at Stanford once and went in and had a bit of a chat and learned that in order to teach a class at D School, it must be developed and delivered by two professors at least from two different faculties. Like you can put structural rules in place to how you deliver, to force interdisciplinary delivery, such as what they do at D School. I think you can also look at the co-teaching model, where you bring specialists in to deliver particular areas or to co-deliver. I particularly like the idea of an entrepreneur in residence or a founder in residence within a faculty who sits in on classes and is involved in the design of the subject and adds industry relevance to what you're delivering that way. But I think what it really comes down to is the educator themselves and their belief, like their internal belief that diversity is better. Like within yourself, you believe that diversity is better, and therefore you go out and you drive that to be. Like you know that you will deliver better educational outcomes to your students, and in the end, we're all teachers. Like as humans, we're all teachers, and the thing that drives us is empowering the development of other people. Like that's like an internal motivator as us as humans. And so if we know that that's the case, we will go out and we will make it work, right? So I think at its core, like if you're looking for a root cause, it comes down to the individual educator and how the leadership of an educational institution empowers individual educators to drive diversity and inclusion within their classes in terms of cross-disciplinary, cross-industry, whatever it happens to be.
Okay. So I think based on Baden, as he also mentioned that to understand the industry, so in our entrepreneurship department, we introduce one traditional market based on the locality. So in Bangladesh, we have 64 districts. So every district has some uniqueness. Some district is very famous from the fruits product. Some district is very famous from the vegetable. Some district is very famous from handicrafts. Some district is very famous from the tools and machinery. So based on this 64 district traditional product, we are inviting students. They should demonstrate this, all of their district product in 3 days. It's called the 3 days market. It's called the traditional. It's Bengali. It's called the Oitijjer Haat, which is called the traditional market of your locality. So students, whenever they feel that they need to represent their own district. So it's an emotional bonding they are bringing. They are trying to bring all of the component and getting the help. And usually what happened, the other departmental students, those who are also that locality, they also come forward and helping them to promote their business. So by this way, we are also trying to flourish and bringing their entrepreneurial minded or entrepreneurial activities through this traditional market. And again, we did another market in every year's 2 times. It is called the startup market. So that is open for all. Whatever your idea you have, you just start your business. Because we give the free space to the university, is the startup market. So we give them the stall, we give them the everything. They just have to pay only $1. Because if we give the 100% free, we cannot control the registration and other systems. So $1 is the registration fee. So they can take the booth, that is as become an exhibitor. So 3 days also startup market, they also promote their own product. And we allow them also because to bring the friend and other community to come to the university so that they can sell their product through their friend or other community also. By this way, we can try to give them the marking, the what source of revenue they are earning, how much really they are branding and promoting their stall, and how much I think they're bringing the people. And because that through the social networking, they are also campaigning a lot. So by this way, we are also marking that how much they have the influence on the social networking of the technology, because as we discussed that without technology, it is impossible nowadays. So lastly, we also introduced a boot camp. I hope that our friend Ivan from Indonesia, I think he's here. He is also introducing one entrepreneurship certificate, that is mentoring system. So we're also introducing this boot camp. So this boot camp is also, that the student need to stay in a remote area in a tent, or they 7 days they stay there. So we are trying to understand that how they mixing, how they negotiate with their friend, their values and other things we are trying to also bring in. So because as I already mentioned, the entrepreneurial minded people always need to try to absorb and face the challenges and prove their efficiency and making the friendship as much as possible. So by this way, we are trying to bring some change in our education system, which is very tough. As I already mentioned, that academicians don't like to change their mindset. But again, slowly, we are trying, because as Biden is already mentioned that we have the entrepreneurial background. That is why we are trying to change considering the present scenario.
It's the microphone's over here.
Okay. Well, another point that is interesting for underdeveloped country or countries in the way of the development, like my country, is that we have 2 ways to create knowledge. One is the traditional way, from traditional university, especially from innovation economy like Europe and the States. We have research centers and the big university that have basic research and then spin-off and create technology and so on. But this is not the way for us, I think. This is my opinion. For a small country, the way is the entrepreneurship ecosystem, when some small company and startups can create new opportunity with new technology, with new application of this technology for the problem of the country or of the region. It's quite difficult to explain that for the traditional university or the traditional systems like my colleagues, academics in the university, that they are very interesting in the traditional way. The other way is new. For example, in my country, in the last 5 years, start a new area in the holdings or in the corporate company that is the corporate venture area. This corporate venture area in the big economic holdings in Chile, they create a specific teams that are scouting for new companies, startups. They financing some things, they buy some of this company, they create a partnership agreement, and I think this is a great opportunity for our country. For this reason, as I said some minutes ago, the government create a stock exchange for startups, specific for startup, that the name is ScaleX. And this is I think this is the way where a small country, innovation economy can create new technologies, new companies, and participate in the development, in the global development. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. We have time probably for one more topic, and I'd like to kind of pose maybe a rather provocative little comment and conversation to the panel. Who teaches or is familiar with entrepreneurial mindset? Right, most of us, right? So there's been a lot of research done on mindset, things like, resilience and opportunity recognition and all these others. I expect that there may be some variation in the response here amongst the panel based on national ecosystems. So I'm curious, we talk a lot about mindset, and it's probably a good shift, a good trend in entrepreneurship education away from the outcome being exclusively the domain of the new startup, right, to more soft skills. But have we asked employers if they value those soft skills? That seems to me to be a missing piece here. So there hasn't been a lot of research on that. So I'm curious from the panel's perspective, from an entrepreneurial mindset that we preach in our classrooms, how do you translate that to the students in terms of future employment?
It appears as though I'm beginning this one again. So I've got a very, very strong view that entrepreneurship is both a mindset and a skill set, a mindset and a process. It's a combination of the two that comes together. And this is brought up about research that's into entrepreneurial capability. And as educators, we're in the human capital business, yeah? And I think this is a related concept around educators and what we're trying to deliver. Like as a school or as a university, are you in the human capital business or are you in the financial capital business? And I think some of us strategically struggle with which camp we're in. I'm clearly in the human capital business. And for me, I see entrepreneurial capability, and you can look into the research that sits in behind entrepreneurial capability. It drives down into mindset and skill set or process. So the heuristic of the ways in which entrepreneurs think and reason, and importantly, also the process of the way in which entrepreneurs act. And this is why experiential education is so important, because it's that combination of the two, the thinking and the doing. And in my mind, there is simply no question that the entrepreneurial mindset is driving the future of work. It is just factual that our world is becoming more uncertain, and we've known since 1920 that the entrepreneurial mindset has a strategic advantage when uncertainty abounds. It's just factual, we know it. Hundreds of years of academic research into behavioural trends and firm performance that shows that when uncertainty abounds, entrepreneurial capability outperforms. And that is becoming a narrative that is more and more accepted in the world of work, and employers are starting to hire on mindset rather than skill set. They're looking past the name of the degree that's on the testama, and they're looking to the experience and the approach to decision making that individuals make. It's more and more in that space. And maybe the research isn't there, but research, as we know, is 20 years behind anyway at best. Right? Because we need the data to prove that is the case beyond, anyway. So so it is the case. It's a no-brainer from my perspective that entrepreneurial capability is the driver of the future of work, and that drives down into, as educators designing education systems, our focus on building mindset. And this is where the challenge comes in, because when you're building soft skills, it's difficult to use measures of outcomes on soft skills, right? So this is where I take input from the corporate world. From the corporates who are playing in the startup space, they don't use outcome measures to measure the performance of their employees. They use input measures. How many startup founder meetings did you have? How many events did you go to? Like, I look at like Swisscom and their Outpost program and how they measure the performance of the professionals that are out there scoping and doing startup integration programs for a corporate environment. All of their measures on employee performance are input based. So as educators, we're now starting to shift how we assess our students going through our programs, and we're starting to measure and badge input measures on the performance of how they're developing curiosity, how they're developing critical thought, how about compassion, how is compassion being developed through their experiences in the educational intervention. And so it's shifting fundamentally the structure of your assessment and how you assess student performance through an educational intervention. Which goes to my point around the revolution in education that is happening. And in order to deliver on this, we have to fundamentally change the way in which education is delivered. And we can't rely on historical outcome-based end of semester, assessment. We can't. It's outdated to what the current future of work is. We must be designing progressive, forward-looking design of education in order to build on this mindset that we know is so critical in terms of the future of work and preparing our youth for that to be prosperous in the future of work. Yep.
I just add one point that Biden is also mentioned that entrepreneurial mindset, which I repeatedly mentioned, that entrepreneurial student itself has the capability to prove while they will work under any employer. Because of this, you see that the skill set and their challenging mindset, very easily they can absorb any sorts of knowledge and any sorts of challenge. At the same time, that as outcome-based education, Biden is also mentioned. So outcome-based education, I think what will be the other subject that is based on their subject perspective, but entrepreneurial-minded student or entrepreneurship education should be revenue-based. Because how much revenue they are earning. I think whatever business they, as I already mentioned, that they must need to start a small business, whatever format. I think they can sell to the tea, they can sell to water, they can cleaning, any sorts of small business they can start it to prove their entrepreneurial-minded knowledge. So through this entrepreneur-minded knowledge, when they will start the business or any organizational activities, I think teachers should evaluate them based on that how much outcome and how much revenue they are bringing. If they can bring the revenue, I think it's an indication that this entrepreneur-minded student can face any challenge. Because a lot of cases, this is true that all of the entrepreneur-minded students, after getting their entrepreneur education, they will become the entrepreneur. They can become the entrepreneur. They can become the best choice of the employer. So employer, what happened, as Thomas has mentioned, that employer always then prefer to find out the student, those who have completed the entrepreneurship education because of challenge skill set, because they always love to absorb or just cope up with the challenge, technology, skill set, whatever changing is coming, because we do not know what change will be coming from the next day. Using of the technology also precisely, because everybody we are using the smartphone, but how much precisely or professionally we are using this technology, that is also important. So as a new entrepreneur, outcome-based education and challenging entrepreneur always try to use the technology also professionally. Thank you.
Well, in my country, I think all the tertiary education system changed the curricula and include the entrepreneurship competence and skills as a core competence in all the programs. At least in the engineer programs, the government spent a lot of millions of dollars to change the curricula and include the entrepreneurship competence in the curricula. My recommendation is that you have to find different sources. For example, Europe have a common program of competence and skills for entrepreneurship, but you have to customize. You have to change all these. Framework to your country. Sometimes we go to a event, and you know that this person learned from Babson or Stanford or in a university of UK, where they learn entrepreneurship or some innovation issues or innovation knowledge. My recommendation is to change this knowledge, change these models, and customize for your purpose in your country, in your region, and in your university. And that's it.
Great, thank you. We only have a few minutes left in this session, but I would like to take questions if there are any. I saw that hand first, so Papa.
Okay.
No, I just thank you, Mr. Abdul Rahim, for bringing it in our notice, because as we repeatedly mentioned that course curriculum, as Burden is also mentioned, that need to be real outcome based, because say suppose, as I mentioned, that revenue based, product based, what result is coming. Otherwise, you are right. The traditional education system is, if it is going to the mark base or completion, that will not create the more entrepreneur.
My recommendation is to management the risk. I am in your situation. Yeah, I have centennial students, undergraduate students. You have to grade the evaluation set. You have to grade the material and the roadmap of the course of the semester. Because if you change that during the semester, you could have some problems. And at the end of the semester, you have an evaluation from the student. For this reason, I said you have to manage the risk as a teacher. Yeah, I have to work 15 years more as a teacher, and for this reason, you have to prepare the material, the roadmap of the semester, and then you use the tools and models to teach entrepreneurship.